there is not enough hardware and equipment available in the market to actually build new networks.
Any common misconceptions about predictive maintenance as you try to help these clients out?
Once you start seeing the ROI and benefits of it, then you start leveraging at a scale.
I don't think we can emphasize how many different parts of the coordination that are necessary.
What are the ways that agentic AI can and is helping utilities do better when it comes to planning across the organization?
We see some leading utilities already leveraging conversational AI to notify the customer in real time.
We're done with pilots.
Utilities have more information than ever, but how do they actually use it? Hi there, and welcome to Power Perspectives. I'm Matt Chester. For energy pros, or anyone really, it's hard to go a day without hearing about artificial intelligence. But much of that conversation centers on the skyrocketing electricity demand from data centers. What gets way less airtime? How can AI help utilities operate a much more efficient and resilient grid? That's why organizations are starting to use AI to make quicker and smarter decisions in their daily workflows. From preparing for major storms to connecting the very data centers that make these models happen. But a big caveat here, in such a high stakes industry, human expertise is still essential to keep things running. Still, utilities around the world have found smart uses for agentic AI that can completely change the game. So what does it actually take to incorporate these tools? Today, we're getting the rundown from our partners at IBM, which is helping organizations harness AI to get a better handle on the grid of today and plan for the grid of tomorrow. And be sure to stick around to hear more about their work a little later on. Now I'm excited to welcome our guests today, Christopher Behme, strategy lead for the energy sector, and Biren Gandhi, global energy and utilities COE leader. Chris, Biren, welcome to Power Perspectives. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with so many of the team.
Yeah, same here, Matt.
Great. Yeah, it's great to have you guys on. And I'd love if you both could tell us a little bit more about what you do at IBM to kind of ground the conversation.
Absolutely. And I'll start and then hand off to Biren. So I'm focused in North America, and I lead our strategy amongst a few other smaller titles. I've been in the industry just over 32 years, and my job is not only looking at mergers and acquisitions and clients and resources, but really how do we bring all of that to life for our clients? And then on a much broader scale is Biren. Biren, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, Chris. Thanks for the opportunity, Matt. I'm based out of Frankfurt, Germany, and as you said, Matt, I have a global role. So we both, Chris and I, are part of IBM Consulting, which is our business consulting group within the IBM, and been in the industry for the last 20 years. My role in as a COE or Center of Excellence leader is to bring in thought leadership, build the thought leadership, and we do that by working with our clients across the globe. And one of the things that we are proud as IBM is to kind of the chance that we get opportunity to work with utilities, particularly across the globe. So some very interesting stuff that we do in Japan today, we bring it next day to our US colleagues, and what we do on the west coast of ES, bring it to the East Coast and to the UK and so on and so forth. So we basically try to bring the learnings that we apply at our clients across the globe. And that's the main focus for me.
Great. And that's all great context. And I want to use that to lead into the topic at hand, which is how utilities are using AI right now. And specifically, can you tell us where agentic AI crops up in the typical utilities workflow these days?
Yeah, AI in general has been around for a while, right? So we started with AI ML many years back with all kinds of forecasting, for forecasting in the operation side, but also for the maintenance purpose and so on and so forth. Over years, I think our biggest, all the AI actually, when we started applying across the core business processes, is all about leveraging the data that exists within the utility, but across the ecosystem, and bringing them together to create a new insights. So we see actually quite a bit of use of AI, particularly with the advent of generative AI and the use of time series foundation models across the board. So starting within the capital planning and overall new build areas, construction, new constructions that's going on, particularly in the transmission side, but also in the generation side. Operations, of course, a big opportunity there, and that's where our clients are really applying more and more agentic AI, specifically when we look into situational awareness of the control room of the future, but also as we go into the training flows. Agentic AI is now more and more becoming a norm when it comes to algorithmic trading. Maintenance, of course, as I said, predictive maintenance is a big area where clients are kind of leveraging it. But also in major weather-related events and management of that, and that's where the emergency preparedness and response. That's another big area that we see the use of AI, and particularly the agentic AI, becoming more and more common.
Yeah, and I would just pile on, Matt, that it really is everywhere, from regulatory, capital planning, intelligent operations. I have the benefit of being at an offsite with a strategic partner. We're just doing this session, and they relayed this morning that 83% of their customers are all using and plan to be using AI. So it really is all parts of the business and very pervasive.
Yeah, so it's ubiquitous, but I'm curious, how would you guys grade their use of AI these days? Are they using it correctly, shrewdly? What does that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, I would suggest that it's probably I would give our clients and ourselves a B, because I think there's still more that we can be doing, and Biren has seen this on a much more global scale. So I'll let Biren kind of go deeper into that.
Let's say a year back, there was all this focus on POCs and pilots of leveraging AI in all kinds of operations. Now we see that the next phase of kind of scaling those pilots into AI at scale and leveraging AI, people have seen an element of what the technology can do, but the business value realization with these POCs have not been that promising. And one of the reasons what we found there, or a couple of reasons actually, we feel that why the difference between the ones who have been able to scale the AI and ones who have not been able to, I think there are two or three differences. One is the ones who have been able to scale are really focused on fixing their data and making sure they're able to get right amount of data and where there are gaps and leveraging right technology to fill the gaps. The second is a process area. And I think one of the key things as we apply AI, and particularly when we go in more in agentic AI, it's important that we rethink the process and the workflow, right? The utilities cannot use the same workflow and same process and leverage all the best insights and expect new value out of it. They will have to completely rethink the process in the way of working to leverage the AI. And this is where the clients who have been able to rethink that whole way of working are able to see the value and return of investments. And as you know, this is a flywheel, right? Once you start seeing the ROI and benefits of it, then you start kind of leveraging at a scale.
Yeah, so obviously, you're covering kind of how AI has shifted and how it's the perception of it has changed in the power sector in recent years. But I'm curious, especially Biren, that you say you have a global perspective. Has that differed in U.S. utilities versus international ones?
I will not say just the country makes a big difference, to be honest with you. It's also within the US, I have seen some really leading practices, and I have seen some of the, laggards in markets like Japan or Germany. So it's not a country thing. I think more about the culture in the utility and the leadership that's playing a big role here, I think. So that's going to be my thinking here, and that's what I've seen.
Yeah, I just wanted to pile on. I think that there's so many different priorities with in the energy industry right now. And I think the challenge that we're seeing as we move from, as Biren stated, that pilot stage to this realization stage is who can clearly articulate and order their priorities and work through that transformation. So it's not a measure of desire as much as it's a measure of that prioritization and coordination, right? And then we've got to have the governance, the sponsorship. But I think that's the really big change that's happened in the past year. And I think that's where you see the stratification, if you will, of who's going to be leaders because they can get the ducks in a row really fast and they've got that alignment, and who's still trying to understand, well, what's going to be our priorities for this year versus next year, because we're at a completely different pace than we were 5 years, 10 years ago, even 2 years ago. But this isn't your father's utility or energy industry. This has changed. We've gone through this metamorphic transformation, and some have adapted really well, and some are still working through that process.
Yeah,
And if I
absolutely.
just to add further on that, right? So the key element from the leadership perspective is the mindset around adapting a product or a platform operating model, or also about looking at holistic AI governance, because the what we see is that the leaders have been able to figure out a model where business and IT are working hands on hand. Unless you have that, you will have a lot of things going on in parallel, and there's no right governance. And that's the biggest, one of the big challenge that a lot of good initiatives are failing.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear. And Chris, and you mentioned priorities in the utility sector and how those are shifting. And some of the big ones that AI is impacting are the planning, the operations, and the maintenance. I know we're going to cover all of those today. So I want to dive into the planning aspect of it. Big picture, what are the ways that agentic AI can and is helping utilities do better when it comes to planning across the organization?
I think from a planning perspective, what we are seeing is in all aspects of planning. So first of all, capital planning. We see clients leveraging AI, and I think we've been working with many of a couple of good clients situations currently where we're leveraging for capital planning in terms of, just think about an integrated utility which has a business unit focusing on transmission, other one on distribution, and third on the generation side. And if each of these silos, if you like, are having their own capital plans for next many years, I think the biggest value we are seeing the utilities are they're saying, okay, whatever we are planning on the generation side, do we have enough capacity to take on that in the transmission side, and do we have the enough distribution capacity and the plans which are aligned to each other? Unfortunately, they were silos, and this is where we see quite a bit of use of AI to connect that dots and create an integrated planning across the integrated utility. That's one on the big capital planning perspective. The second is also when you think about the operational planning, the midterm and short-term planning of operations. Even there, whether it's on the ensuring that your maintenance and operations are aligned, and you're leveraging AI to fill the gap, and so that they don't operate completely independently. So particularly outage planning and ensuring that outage windows are taken care of with the right operational inputs while we're doing maintenance. So the O&M part is another areas where the planning, where they're applying AI. I think those are two major areas that comes to my mind.
Yeah, and I would just echo, it's really that coordination that we were just talking about that gets all these pieces in alignment. And I think that's the so what, the part that's really critical for our clients and for all of us right now in this industry.
Yeah, no, and the Biren, you mentioned outages, and that makes me think of the emergency response planning in particular. The challenge for utilities, it isn't always necessarily making the plan, but it's when the emergency happens, how are you coordinating those thousands of decisions when conditions are changing by the minute in a hectic environment? So I'm wondering if you two could help us contextualize what makes that coordination so tough, and then at what point, what is the major bottleneck, and at what point does it become too much for humans alone to handle?
Yeah, in our role, we have had chance. I think Chris and I both had a chance in different scenarios, but we had a chance to be in the control room when actually the events were happening or when the emergencies were happening, and what I have seen there is that till now, right, a lot of control rooms during the emergency, 10 hours before or during the emergencies, 85%, maybe 90% of the people are just on the phone call, trying to coordinate, trying to get information from the systems, which are again silos, and connecting with the people on the screen, on the road, right? And that entire work, I believe, and this is what we have started seeing now, the use of agentic AI particularly, that entire coordination, getting data together, making that data and right insights available to end users, to the consumers, but also to the technicians on the field, making sure that all this information is available in real time. That can be done by digital workers or in word agentic AI. And that's the big value, if you think about it, that AI is bringing here and unlocking a huge opportunity for us to where we can respond. So that's from a very real time perspective. Also planning, hotels for the people when they're on the field, ensuring the right logistics for the staff, but also leveraging asset performance management, APM based predictive insights about the impact an asset will have when the event is, planning a 10 hours or 15 hours beforehand, and ensuring that you have right equipments being already made available at those locations, localizing those equipments. I see also, better and better the forecasting models around the weather forecasting, and then impact on forecasting of that, again, playing a big role there. And thirdly, I will say also the optimization. How do I bring all this together, including the vegetation, collecting information from the field, whether it's with the drones, or whether it's with even the consumer sending out images to you about what's happening in their neighborhood, and leveraging that data in real time to influence your planning and response processes. I think there is all kinds of interesting work going on in the industry at the moment.
And Matt, as a veteran of hurricanes in Florida and Texas and Louisiana, and tropical storms in the Northeast, and fires, right? I don't think we can emphasize how many different parts of the coordination that are necessary. And as Biren said, it starts with the weather forecasting beforehand that has dramatically changed in terms of accuracy, that leads to the proper positioning of the assets, that leads to the correct staging so that we can get in and do the assessments as quick as possible. A lot of more remote assessment. So all the way through to, on the back end, regulatory management, regulatory recovery, right? Different states, different feds, different organizations, all need to be in conjunction and coordinated. So that the amount of effort that is there, that again, if you think about Florida, where we just had back-to-back hurricanes, just because you get through one, you don't get the chance in this industry to sit back and relax. You need to be ready for the next gut punch, the next event. So there is, very little time to kind of recoil, re-energize. We need to constantly be ready. And this is the new expectations, are that no matter what kind of emergency we have, the people have the expectation that we're going to recover immediately from it, right? That we're going to be rebounded and ready to reload and go. And so that, as Biren laid it out, these tools help us to better be prepared for that.
No, and I live in Florida, so I know that the back-to-back nature of those storms very well. And you're right, there's a lot to manage there. And I hear you both talking about, that the tools are helpful for coordination, collecting the data and the information, the forecast. Are there, as it's kind of bringing that all together, are there decisions that the AI is then realistically helping to manage, or even decisions it's making?
Yes, to a certain extent, particularly, as I said, for example, simple processes like booking hotel rooms, right? That's a simple decision they need to do, right? That can be completely automated, and is getting automated. I think another area which we did not touch is the customer interaction, this customer notification, and so on and so forth. I mean, we still have clients where it takes 4 or 5 hours before you get in the call center to talk to a person when the events are happening, right? And this is where I think there is a huge opportunity, and we see some leading utilities already leveraging conversational AI to notify the customer, to stay in real time, provide all the real time information to the consumer as what they know, right? And this is where the conversational AI, and again, that digital worker, which will provide information to employees in the utility, but can also provide same information to the consumer, right? So with the right guardrails. So that's another big area where we see a value.
And through the channel that they prefer, right? I think that's the other part. Like, our world has changed again so much that how we used to interact with the customer is completely different, and how they prefer to be interacted with, especially changes during an emergency situation. So again, AI helps with that dramatically.
The tool seems so incredibly helpful for, when these events are happening. And then, another side of it that's going to be crucial to any utility people listening in are the ongoing challenges when it comes to planning and building the grid of the future. And there's so much need for new capacity, new transmission lines, all the permitting processes. So when you both think about the role agentic AI is playing in that integrated planning process and building towards new connections, what immediate improvements come to mind as you integrate the AI? Can you tell us more about what makes this a game changer?
I would say the biggest one is the time, right? So what, if you think about it, if I make a credit card request today, I can get it in real time, approval or a decision from a bank or a financial institution, whether it's a consumer or whether even it's a business, right? Think about a new connection request that a data center or a large consumer or even putting electric charging station at home. It takes 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks for you to react. Because they have to go through all kinds of checks and simulation of the network, capacity of the network, and so on and so forth. There are multiple systems that they have to look through it. If you think about a banking, I mean, they also have to do similar checks before they make the decision, but they're able to do it in real time. And that's because they're applying digital technology in real time, right? And being able to, and this is where I think the AI is really helping us now as we start at the new applying agentic AI into new connection processes, that a lot of the work around simulation checkings can be done automatically at the back office by the agents, and then you have at least a tentative approval or directional approval, and then there is a human in the loop to kind of validate it. So the time is the biggest value. I think that's changing. And I think when I talk to utilities, and Chris will echo this, our utilities are actually struggling with the number of speculative requests for data centers and other new loads on the network. It's humanly impossible for them to respond all of them manually into rest time.
Yeah, you nailed it, Biren. That's what I was just going to bring up too. Again, I've talked about this, how much the environment has changed, but that is your data centers demand is a dramatic dramatic change for us, and so that is one of the things that, again, as our industry contends with. That's where we have to be better. That's where the AI can help us to be more efficient with time, with all the coordination, with regulatory requests, with even security kind of mandates, security checks, all the different things that need to go through as we think about what goes into kind of that preventive approach.
Yeah, and it's the natural irony that you can hear in that the data centers are coming in because of all of this new use of AI, and then we're using AI tools to try to fast track those data centers to be interconnected. So, you guys see a tangible reduction in that interconnection queue wait time because we do adopt these tools.
Yes, we have seen from 8 weeks to process becoming 2 weeks already.
Wow,
that's a huge positive change. And I strongly feel it should be 1 day, right? But at least from 8 to 2 weeks is what we have seen.
Terrific. Yeah, that's massive, and like you said, it can only get better from there. Another area I want to talk about is the role that digital twins play in helping grid operators make better, more informed decisions with all this new load coming online. How does that interact with the other tools that we're talking about here today?
Again, I think the digital twin is again another amazing technology. Again, it's powered by both data and AI. I think at the end of the day, it's all about bringing data and AI together. I think we talked about planning. We talked about the operational challenges around new connection, but also operations and maintenance area. I think another area where digital twin is playing a big role is if you think about today's constraint on our network, particularly in the transmission and to the extent generation as well, there is not enough hardware and equipment available in the market to actually build new networks. I mean, if you look at any factories of GE or Hitachi or Siemens, they are all sold out for next many years. We don't have enough hard transformers. You don't have enough gas power plants to deploy on the for the need that we have because of AI, but in general, the overall need we have, right? And this is where I think the digital twin plays a big role. First of all, to plan and ensure that right constraint, that we have with the amount of resources that we can leverage to optimize where do we want to put which equipment in a most optimized way, instead of putting across the board, identifying those hotspots. This is where the digital twin can help you to run all kinds of scenarios. Second is also, I will say purely from an extending digital twin, but thinking about a network where we can unlock the flexibility, unlock all the existing capacity we have in both transmission and distribution network by running N-1, N-M simulations and being able to unlock some of the flexibility and run the grid a little bit at the higher risk if need be, but being able to do it in such a way that we don't risk the large outages, but we still use the capacity that exists today in the network, which is again a big constraint at the moment, right? Given the hardware situation. So I think the digital twin has a big role there to play for us, and it's already playing, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to say that better, because I think we've seen it start more dramatically in Europe, but it is also this very much extends to the US currently.
Excellent. And I want to move now to the kind of that third major topic that we talked about at the beginning, which is maintenance. And I want to help set the stage by understanding, what are essentially the core challenges for utilities that want to take this more modern approach to predictive maintenance, and what makes doing so tough.
Maybe I'll start with the project that I've been working on for a large transmission operator in Europe. It's almost 5 years since we started this whole journey from moving from reactive to condition-based maintenance. The primary driver there was the regulator asking us to bring down the maintenance cost by at least 5% in their capital plans. And I think there are 2 or 3 elements here. One is, yes, the technology is ready to go, and the technologies are right. But I think the most important decision and why we were successful, and we also had areas where we took time to actually execute our journey map. And I think the ones where we were successful was at those utilities where we were able to define the right business case from day one. So when you want to get into a predictive maintenance journey, it's really important to define 1 or 2 low-hanging fruits where you can show value to the business after 6 months, after 9 months. They can see that there is a substantial value that we can unlock here, and that drives a culture of adding more and more use cases to your list and keep building more and more. You need to have this whole predictive maintenance as a journey rather than bring one tool for next 3 years and then automatically things will improve. That just doesn't work that way. Secondly, what I've also seen is that there are products in the market which apparently talks about ready to go with predictive maintenance and predictive tools and so on and so forth, but they're very very black box oriented, and it restricts you to specific equipment types. It restricts you to specific value that you can generate. What we have seen is having an open approach of bringing data across different silos together, even for the maintenance activity. This is where the real value comes in. And so it's not just about putting one large product which does a specific function of prediction and then it's done. It's really, it ends up giving you so many alarms and events, you don't even understand what they're meaning at times. And hence, to get a confidence from end users, from the maintenance manager to leverage the insights, you need to explain them. Why are we making certain prediction? Why are we setting? What is the reasons behind it? And this is where the openness of a tool and explainability of the AI plays a big role in making the maintenance program successful, particularly with the predictive maintenance.
Yeah, I would just highlight, Biren mentioned it, but again, that the most important part is those data silos, Matt. When we go in and we're working with a client who's looking to make a major transformation, or even in our own client zero story, what we really find is the first problem to solve after the business case is the data, right? And the silos that it's all in, whether it's tools or different business units. So that's the part that it is sometimes really a challenge for everybody to get their head around, and for us to kind of get through the transformation.
Do you find that you guys are running up on any common misconceptions about predictive maintenance as you try to help these clients out?
I think the first answer I get from everybody, oh, we are already doing predictive maintenance.
Yeah, so I would echo that. When you're running a pilot, that is not predictive maintenance. That's a pilot on this part of this part in one specific tool or one specific area. So the part we always chuckle, and usually the C-suite chuckles too when they hear this, or we're all talking in a group and somebody's like, "Oh, we're doing that," and they're like, "Oh, describe it." So we'll spend about 5 minutes. Sometimes that's all it takes to kind of, before as we say this out loud, and we're like, we're really hitting just a fraction of the ecosystem or of the bigger issue, right? And again, all the other topics we talked about, if you're just looking at this part, you can't be successful.
Does AI then serve as almost a force multiplier there, where you can go about implementing greater amount of predictive maintenance and helping utilities spend their maintenance dollars more efficiently, more effectively?
I think a big way, and to be honest with you, a very big way. I'll tell you a concrete example here. 5 years back, when we were building out, analytical models for equipments, right, to understand the whole health and risk profiles and risk indexes of the equipments, we will take months to build out those models with analytical techniques and data. With now generative AI, the ability for us to build out the equipment models based on the physics, but also aligning that physics driven model with the real data from the plants, from the either it's transmission or generation, whatever equipment you're talking about. So bringing the physics based model and data driven model together and being able to build out those models for whether for risk or for health or criticality indexes, it's become like couple of days you can build this out. It used to take months for us to create a single model. So that's the speed again, and the quality and the test. We are able to quickly test it out. We are able to kind of iteratively build this out. So that's where the AI is playing a big role.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear about. And kind of starting to look ahead now. That throughout our conversation today, we've touched on planning and operations and maintenance. All of those are pointing towards a future where utilities are making decisions with more information than ever before, and ideally more efficiently than ever before. So if you could, look in your crystal ball, what does the utility control room look like in, say, 5 years?
Yeah, I think, Matt, it's got real time ultimate information. As I was sitting with a CIO recently, and she was talking about her AI journey and where they were at, and she was volunteering that they had literally hundreds of different organizations talking about and parts of the business and offering to do pilots. She's like, we're done with pilots, right? That next that control room is a trusted partner. It's a ubiquitous across all parts of the business, and it provides that ultimate real time. So there isn't a guess about what or about which piece we're talking about. That's the kind of information that all the businesses, all of the organization wants to see. It's the same truth. And it's understood across the business, and it's real time.
I will absolutely echo that, right? That single view of the data across the board. And I think one more thing I will say, the future, like we talk about autonomous grid, right? At some point of time, we'll have autonomous grid. I think that's maybe 10 years down the line. I don't think it's next 5 years. But for next 5 years, I would for sure the adaptive grid, right? Which is where what Chris was saying, making sure that everybody is having access to the set of data they need. And you're not like in a control room only looking at one system to look at certain events happening, open up another system to create a work order, and third system to look what send some technician on the field. I think that entire workflow is going to be fluid, kind of automatically, like the workflows will be created as we go. And that's where I see what I call adaptive grid, where you'll be able to adapt in the situation, whether it's emergency or whether it's in the real-time operations or whether it's in the maintenance activities when you're outage window, right? You will able to adapt your control room based on the situation. The autonomous grid of everything being automatically, that I don't know if you will ever go there, but maybe 10 years down the line, at least now.
And Biren, I want to bring back a question I asked you earlier. Again, you have this global view. Do you think that utility control room of 5 years from now looks different depending on where in the world you are? Are there certain countries, grids that, their regulatory framework or their, just how the utilities are set up are better suited to adapt to these tools?
I think so. Yeah, I think there is a little bit of a regional impact, and that's also mostly driven because of the scenarios there. And to be honest with you, if I look at the who is really thinking forward in terms of adaptive grid and these scenarios, it's California actually. The utilities in California have a whole different challenges than we have utilities in other parts of the world. I do see also here in Germany, another place because we have large amount of DER in the network. I think those are two kind of markets, Germany and California and Spain. By the way, Spain is another place where we see quite a bit of DER. I think the DER ingestion, data center load, and the electric vehicle and the electric, and also if you think about in Californian market, you also have the trading element where you can easily trade the power and there are a lot of options there. So I think there is a regulatory plus the market condition which is driving the direction here.
Great. And now as we get close to wrapping things up, I kind of want to throw out one question that's kind of the undercurrent of a lot of this, but it's a big one, which is, as we're integrating these tools, how should utilities be thinking about trust in AI these days?
Yeah, I'll start because at the same CIO that I was talking about was it really is a trust but verify. So I think there's two parts of that. One is thinking about how do you make sure that all parts of that data that you trust, but also how do you have that human interaction? How do you have the checks and balance so that you can build in that second part, which is the trust, the verification part of that. So we're at this important inflection point, right, as we see this energy convergence, as we try and work through AI and the renewables. There's so many different factors that really are driving this at the same time as we talk about resiliency and we have these major things as we talked about emergency preparedness and we talk about affordability. So that's the kind of the so what is that as all these pieces come together, we need to keep that coordination and be able to do that automation and do all of these things through. So it's that kind of trust but verify approach.
Yeah, and concrete example there, customer, right? Customer interaction. You want to be very careful, even if you have a call center agent talking to, AI agents talking to a consumer. Even one bad call can have a really bad reputation, right? And your regulator may not be very happy with you because, particularly, in emergency situations, and when it comes to life and death situation, when you're answering some specific calls from consumers, you want to be very careful that there is an AI is doing the right job there.
Yeah, that's important, and I appreciate you guys saying it. Well, thank you so much to Biren and Chris, both of you, for joining us today. This has been a terrific conversation.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was nice talking to you.
And we appreciate Energy Central pushing continuously to have these kind of discussions with the industry.
Absolutely. They're essential. And we thank IBM for partnering with us on this episode. Thanks once again to our guests for joining us today and for our audience for tuning in. This has been Power Perspectives, and we'll see you next time.